Darwin knew that fossilization was a rare occurrence, and so it should be no surprise that all that remains of previous species is just a scant percentage of how many were really around. And you can't make conclusions about fossils you didn't find, only fossils you did. In fact, we now have examples of numerous transitional fossils, going from fish to mammals and birds, going through amphibians and reptiles, and there are also many transitions within mammals, including bats, rodents, elephants, and whales. Turns out, there are transitional fossils all over the place.
No intermediate fossils have ever been found.
Bogus!
There's not even a single example of an intermediate fish.
Well, unless you count Cladocellaceae, Tristichius, Titanocanthus, Paleospinax, Spathobatus, Protospinax, Acanthodians, Paleoniscoids, Canobius, Leptolepis, Paleoniscoids. Slow down, it's hard to talk this fast. Osteolepis, Elpistostega, Acanthostega, Aduella, Parasimionatus, and Ichthyostega. To name a few. The creationist objection to these is that they're not transitionals, but complete species. Well, of course they're complete species. What did you expect? In a sense, every species is a transitional, at least potentially, because they all come between what went on before with their ancestors and what will come later with their descendants. But creationists are determined to deny this tooth and nail. Here's former child star and complete idiot Kirk Cameron demonstrating what creationists think transitionals should be.
Because this is what evolutionists have been searching for hundreds of years. All right, and if you find one of these, you could become rich and famous. So here's some transitional forms. This is called the crocodile.
Bogus!
This is the bullfrog.
Stupid!
Or, of course, the sheepdog.
Transitionals don't work that way. No, you don't have a half crocodile, half duck. And if you did have one, that would debunk evolution. There is absolutely no mechanism whatsoever in evolution for a species crossing over from one lineage to another. The traits that crocodiles and ducks have in common are the traits that their common ancestors had, and nothing more. Once again, the creationists don't know what they're talking about, and yet they pretend to teach you all about it. We secretly replaced real science with Folger's creationism. Let's see what happens.
The truth is, there are no examples of evolution in the fossil record. No intermediate transitional species. Out of the millions of fossils found in more than 150 years, the only thing we see are complete species.
Another way the creationists avoid the whole transitional issue is harping on and on about the missing link and how it's never been found. This is enough to send our bogometers into spasms. First of all, there are many examples of transitionals from apes to humans. What the creationists do is make a big deal out of the gaps that are left. But that's dishonesty. That means that when you find one missing link, the creationists can just point to two more. Another problem is that they just focus on the fossil record, which is sparse because, as I said, fossilization is a very rare occurrence. But we also have an extensive genetic record, and the more we learn, the more we find that there just aren't that many differences between humans and apes. You don't really need much of a transition from one to the other. You're probably getting the idea. Creationists don't know their biology. Even basic science debunks their nonsense. When people started to see through their lies and misinformation, and they started losing their battles, both with the public and in the courts, they expanded to include other sciences. One of their new favorite things to lie about is the Big Bang.
British physicist Stephen Hawking stated the obvious conclusion that we'd all have to concede if we're honest.
So long as the universe had a beginning, we could suppose it had a creator.
Exactly.
Exactly. Wrong! This is more quote mining. Here's what he went on to say.
So long as the universe had a beginning, we could suppose it had a creator. But if the universe is completely self-contained, having no boundary or edge, it would neither be created nor destroyed. It would simply be. What place, then, for a creator?
Another violation of the 9th commandment? Ooh, that's not good. But apparently the creationists have little else.
The whole Big Bang idea really is, first there was nothing, and then it exploded.
Think about it. Have you ever heard of an explosion that has produced order? Do you understand what I'm asking you? The question is, can a bomb from a terrorist form a Rolex watch from the various materials available in the area when it explodes? Of course not. It's absurd to even consider.
Right, it is absurd. And that means the Big Bang Theory would be in trouble if the Big Bang in any way resembled a terrorist bomb and the universe in any way resembled a Rolex watch. Fortunately, it doesn't. Dr. Phil Plait, who is not a bogus doctor, is an astronomer who spends a lot of his spare time debunking complete nonsense like this.
The Big Bang is probably has one of the greatest misconceptions, and most people don't understand the Big Bang at all. It still has this misconception that the universe was an explosion of stuff that started in a place and is expanding outward. And that turns out not to be true. It's not an explosion in space. It's actually an explosion of space. The universe itself, space and time were created at that moment. What happened before time was created? Well, I think it was Stephen Hawking who said, well, what's north of the North Pole? You know, the question itself doesn't make sense. Time was created in the Big Bang.
So if space and time were both created in the Big Bang, then there was no before the Big Bang. So you can't even say there was nothing before the Big Bang because there wasn't any space or time for the nothing to not exist in. Or something like that.
The Big Bang is complicated. It is. There's no easy way to describe this. And the problem is there are going to be people out there who are going to try to twist this information. They're going to try to make it conform to what they want it to say. And that's certainly what a lot of the creationists are doing. And they have all manners of way of doing this. Oh, the speed of light was infinite and when the universe was created, and it's been slowing ever since. And the constants in the universe have been changing and all this stuff. And it turns out that none of these claims is true.
Back at the creation versus evolution video, there's even more misinformation.
If the sun, planets, and moons evolved from the same material, they should have many similarities. Yet each planet is unique. Since about 98% of the sun is hydrogen or helium, Earth, Mars, Venus, and Mercury should have similar compositions.
No, they shouldn't. They aren't massive enough for those lighter elements to be held down without bonding to form a larger molecule, like hydrogen bonding with oxygen to make water. Initially, the larger planets did have a large gaseous atmosphere of hydrogen or helium, but these were blown away by the solar winds. Jupiter, Saturn, and the other outer planets are made up of mostly hydrogen and helium. And they were far enough away that the solar winds were too weak, so they kept their atmosphere and remained massive enough to hold the lighter elements down. But Earth was just too close and lost too much mass. So hydrogen and helium will actually drift away from our planet. In fact, the helium for balloons has to be extracted from underground sources and wasn't even found until 1903. But once they found it, they discovered that helium, extremely rare in our atmosphere, is very plentiful underground. Once again, the creationists are making claims that are easily debunked by even basic science. Sound boy.